We are live. We are waiting for some people that see our live. I will translate something in Italian. If you agree, Sally.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have here Sally Fallon, that for me is a myth. I studied all her book in my first time where I studied paleo diet more than 20 years ago. And for me, it's an honor to have here. Do you have to add something, Alessio?
Yeah, I'm really pleased to have Sally here because I'm a huge fan of her work and also about the Weston Price Foundation, and especially I'm really proud about presenting the latest work, which is the Contagion Myth. It's a really amazing work, and I'm really pleased to talk about it with Sally. So I will start with, because we already sold many copies of the book, and we usually get back some complaints about it. Well, but I read the book, but my father got sick, and my sister got sick as well. There should be a contagion. It can't be explained in other ways, and so on and so forth. So I'd like to hear from you a summarize of the issue and to dispel some of these myths.
So the idea that disease can be passed from one person to another via microbes was formulated by Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch in Germany. And they were charlatans. They cheated in their demonstrations. They pushed quack medicines that didn't work. And their theory was that every disease has a microorganism that causes it. Now, we have come a long way since then, and now we say some diseases have a microorganism that causes it. Now, lots of people getting sick at the same time, so it must be contagious, right? Well, let's think about scurvy. Lots of people get sick at the same time, and they originally thought it was contagious until they figured out it was a nutritional deficiency. So this argument that lots of people get sick at the same time is not a good argument. And then the other argument is that, well, the disease spreads. But, after Chernobyl, the disease spread, but it wasn't a microorganism. So that is not a good argument either.
Yeah, that's epidemiological evidence that doesn't prove in any way the link because cause and effect.
But it can disprove. It can't prove, but it can disprove. And in the chapter on contagion in this book, I go through many diseases that were considered contagious, such as smallpox, typhus, polio was considered contagious. And now we know what the disease was caused by. Smallpox was caused by bed bugs with very toxic bites. Polio was caused by pesticides, neurotoxic pesticides. And typhus is caused by sewage gases, which are very toxic. Now, there always are microorganisms present in disease, but it doesn't mean they cause the disease. There's always maggots on a dead dog, but no one would say that the maggots killed the dog. The maggots, the parasites, the microorganisms, and the things that they're causing viruses are the result of dying tissue that attracts microorganisms to clean up. They are the garbage crew, and it's wrong to assume that they were the cause.
I translate in Italian.
Yes, good luck.
Il contagio, allora abbiamo l'onore, we have the honor to have here Sally Fallon, abbiamo l'onore di avere Sally Fallon. Io ho studiato i primi anni, tutti i suoi libri, i primi anni che mi sono appassionato di dieta ed alimentazione, tantissimi anni fa ormai, sono stato tra i primi in Italia, ed è autrice di questo incredibile libro, Il mito del contagio. Ha spiegato in maniera quasi inoppugnabile il perché tutte le malattie non sono di origine quasi tutte le malattie da contagio non sono di origine da microorganismo, ma da inquinamento che può essere elettromagnetico, come probabilmente è il Covid-19, come può essere anche inquinamento atmosferico. Ecco. Okay, let's go.
I really like. We already talked with many times with Tom, with Andrew Kaufman, with Stefan Lanka. So, and we are waiting for the publication of the control experiment by Stefan.
Yes.
And he clearly demonstrated that the so-called viral particles are just the cell debris from the breakdown of cells that are starved and poisoned. So we can figure out how the disease actually works. So starvation and poisoning. Can you give us an overview about these critical issues?
Yes. So the virologists have always had a problem because they could never find what they were calling viruses in the blood and sputum and even the urine of sick people. They just couldn't find this. And they've admitted that you can't find enough viruses in 10,000 sick people to even study. So they came up with this idea of showing that cells were killed by a culture from the spit or the fluids of a sick person. But the problem is they also put poisons in this culture, and they do a minimal nutrient medium for the cells. And indeed, the cells die. And when they die, they create these little spherical, tiny spherical bodies that they're calling viruses, which we now call exosomes. Stephen Lanka just did a very important experiment where he showed that you get the same cellular breakdown without any of the fluids from the sick people. You get the exact same thing just using poisons and minimal nutrient medium. So, and you get these little tiny round things that, of course, we know are not viruses. They are the result of the tissue breakdown. So the whole science of virology is based on a fraud, and they use this word isolation. And I'm an English major. I take real offense when they misuse the English language, and they are using the word isolation in the wrong sense. It's not isolation at all. They've never isolated this virus for COVID or any virus. In fact, there is a prize of 100,000 euros if you can prove the existence of the measles virus, which has never been done.
Yeah, exactly.
Alessio, can you translate briefly in Italian?
Allora, praticamente la virologia è una frode perché praticamente non sono mai stati i virologi, non sono mai stati in grado di isolare i presunti virus direttamente dal liquido di un paziente, che sia il liquido, la saliva, che sia il sangue o anche un tessuto cellulare. E invece si sono dovuti sempre affidare ad un medium, che è una cultura cellulare esterna, nella quale hanno introdotto il fluido dei pazienti malati, e loro hanno fatto vedere che la degradazione dei tessuti, che avveniva in realtà a causa di antibiotici e di altri additivi e del fatto che le culture cellulari venivano affamate, hanno dato la colpa a questi virus che loro associavano alla degradazione cellulare. Quando la cellula si degrada a causa di questi additivi e della mancanza di nutrienti, crea queste piccole particelle che vengono osservate al microscopio elettronico, che in realtà sono quelli che vengono associati agli esosomi, ma che i virologi identificano col termine di virus patogeni. In realtà questi patogeni sono nient'altro che i prodotti quindi della degradazione cellulare. E adesso sta per essere pubblicato il grande studio del professor Stefan Lanke, che è il famoso esperimento di controllo che non era mai stato condotto in modo corretto durante la storia della virologia, che appunto mostra che anche senza mettere il presunto liquido infetto avviene lo stesso tipo di degradazione cellulare, e quindi quello che noi osserviamo non sono nient'altro che i tessuti che stanno decadendo a causa del metodo che viene utilizzato piuttosto che dalla presenza di un patogeno.
Okay. We are going to translate in Italian, we have already translated. We are going to print the new book by Tom Cohen, Breaking the Spell, and we are going to give as a present for Christmas to all our customers that buy from our shopping everything. We will put in the package as present.
Yes, it's a sequel to The Contagion Myth. We wrote The Contagion Myth very quickly because it was so timely. We had to get the book out there quickly. And since that time, we have uncovered more interesting support for our argument that there really is no such thing as a contagious disease. And by that, we mean a disease passed from one person to the other by microorganisms. They are always there in a disease, or usually there, but they're just doing their job as the garbage collectors.
Allora andremo a pubblicare a brevissimo, lo stiamo impaginando, Breaking the Spell, il sequel del mito del contagio, e poiché è un libro piccolino, almeno fino a Natale lo regaleremo a chiunque farà qualsiasi acquisto sul nostro shopping. E la signora Fallon Morell ci sta dicendo che è il sequel, ed è perché hanno scritto velocemente The Contagion Myth proprio per il momento drammatico, e quindi per informare le persone sulla truffa più velocemente possibile. E quindi stanno scrivendo tutta una serie di aggiornamenti. Infatti il nostro libro in italiano, Il mito del contagio, già c'ha all'interno 2 aggiornamenti.
So what is causing this disease?
Cosa causa il problema, la malattia? Yes.
And we are not saying that it's just the flu. It is a very serious disease. It's unlike the flu in many ways. And our theory, and we think it is a good theory supported by the epidemiology and the biology, is that this is caused by the deployment of 5G and a concentration of more Wi-Fi in buildings and homes, nursing homes, and so forth. But mainly the 5G, which is microwaves. And we know that microwaves have very serious effects on the nervous system, on the lungs, on the blood. And this is exactly what we're seeing in the COVID. So what it means is that the masks and the social distancing, the isolation, and especially the vaccines are useless, if not counterproductive, to treating this illness. And there are good ways to treat it, and most people can recover from the illness.
Puoi tradurre, Alessio?
Allora, praticamente noi non diciamo che praticamente la malattia non esiste, noi diciamo che non è causata, e non è stato provato che è stata causata da un presunto patogeno, da un presunto virus. E quindi cosa può aver causato questa malattia? L'implementazione soprattutto della rete 5G e di altri tipi di tecnologia Wi-Fi, ma soprattutto il 5G gioca un ruolo importante nella questione. Infatti la sintomatologia è perfettamente correlabile con quella di questo tipo di malattia.
Abbiamo appena pubblicato sul nostro blog un articolo, tra l'altro, che fa riferimento a degli altri articoli scientifici proprio sul tema.
E ci sono quindi delle soluzioni anche per far fronte a questo tipo di problematica.
E qui si inserisce il ruolo del light trainer, ok?
So can you tell us what we can do?
Oh, yes. Okay. So let's start with diet, because we have the equivalent of wires in our bodies, and it is the structured water against the membranes of our cells. And when those membranes are solid and robust and strong, then it's like we have good wiring, good insulation, and we're much more able to resist the problems of non-native electromagnetic fields. So what makes our cell membranes robust and strong? It is saturated fats. So the traditional fats that our ancestors ate, we cooked in lard, we used tallow, we ate butter and olive oil in small amounts. These are the fats that we should be eating to ensure that we have good wiring in our bodies. And of course, this is a theme of mine for my whole career. The worst fats are the industrial seed oils, sometimes called vegetable oils, made with corn, soy, canola, and so forth, which have just invaded the food supply, permeated the food supply. So my first suggestion to anyone wanting to have better health, including resistance to COVID and to electromagnetic radiation, is to eat the right fats. We say, get your fats right.
I translate quickly. La prima cosa che suggerisce la nostra Morel, Sally Fallon, è mangiare i giusti grassi, perché sono la base della struttura della membrana cellulare, e questi grassi sono esattamente the contrary that our nutrition
exactly the opposite of what we've been told for 100 years.
Sono i grassi saturi animali e un poco d'olio d'oliva, quindi lo strutto, il tallo, che sarebbe il grasso bovino, e così via. Insomma, poco olio d'oliva e insomma mangiare tagli grassi animali. Questo ed evitare, come abbiamo scritto nel nostro libro Il nuovo vivere secondo natura, e anche gli altri, Insonnia e il male del nuovo secolo e vitamina D, evitare come la peste gli oli vegetali, tutti gli oli vegetali. All vegetables oil are poison.
They are poison. And my second suggestion, and this will be another shocking statement, is to drink raw milk, which you have in Italy. It's very available.
No, it's very difficult.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, if you can get it, because raw milk is our best source of glutathione. And almost everyone has agreed, whatever you think the cause is that glutathione is extremely important for protecting yourself against COVID. And the glutathione in the raw milk is undenatured, whereas when you buy glutathione in pills, it's not nearly as effective.
Vai Alessio.
Allora, un altro suggerimento è quello di bere latte crudo, che è sempre più difficile trovare anche qui da noi, contrariamente a quanto magari si possa pensare anche all'estero, soprattutto perché è una buona fonte di glutatione, che è molto, come diciamo anche noi da tempo, è fondamentale per, diciamo, combattere questo tipo di malattie. Infatti vi è una grande deplezione di questo importante antiossidante. Abbiamo anche una parentesi, guarda caso, invece la tachipirina manda in deplezione il glutatione, quindi il protocollo tachipirina vigilattese, come andiamo dicendo da tempo.
In Italy they suggest tachipirina. Depletes glutathione.
They suggest paracetamol that is going to deplete glutathione.
Vitamin A is very important for any kind of illness or recovery. And where do we get vitamin A? We get it from liver. And we need to go back to eating liver the way our ancestors did. And of course, the Europeans know how to make liver taste really good with your sausage and your pâtés and terrines. These should be in your diet weekly.
Quindi anche è importante la vitamina A, che è contenuta nel fegato, quindi mangiare anche almeno un paio di volte alla settimana il fegato. Vi ricordo che tra qualche giorno verrà pubblicato dalla mia casa editrice Nourishing Tradition della dottoressa Fallon. Ecco. Quindi anche lì troverete, è un libro di ricette, ma è un mattone di 900 pagine, troverete tutte le ricette possibili e immaginabili.
È quello che diciamo sottolineava prima, che è il fatto che per esempio anche il glutatione è molto più biodisponibile, quindi non è denaturato quando si trova negli alimenti, ma invece quando si prende la pillola chiaramente è molto meno biodisponibile. So can you tell us also for the other nutrients that what is your perspective, food versus supplements?
I'm a big advocate of food. I think if we saw how most supplements are made, even this, more holistic supplements, I think we would not want to take them. I think the future of supplements will be desiccated organ meats, like a liver, desiccated heart. I think anyone with heart problems should eat heart or take desiccated heart. Here in the States, we have a wonderful product, which is desiccated oysters. And I've been working with a young man who was an alcoholic, and we got him on these supplements: desiccated liver, desiccated oysters, cod liver oil for vitamin A, and it's just he's a new person because he's well nourished.
Ok, il futuro dell'alimentazione, della supplementazione, secondo la dottoressa Morel, sono gli alimenti essiccati come il fegato essiccato e altri organi essiccati. Quindi il futuro è quello, diciamo, è difficile fare in Italia un prodotto del genere, ci stiamo lavorando, però siamo anche molto impegnati. Per quanto riguarda il glutatione, aggiungo io al discorso della dottoressa Morel, c'è anche la fotobiomodulazione che aiuta moltissimo il ricircolo del glutatione in maniera naturale nel nostro corpo, e quindi anche la ristrutturazione dell'acqua interfacciale, che quindi che viene distrutta dalle onde magnetiche non naturali, e che quindi ci aiuta anche questa a resistere. Many people ask us how to detox from this mRNA vaccine. Can you give us some suggestions?
Well, the first thing is don't take it, because once you put that in your body, it's very hard to get it out. But I would say the same things I've been saying. I would definitely detox with raw milk. I would do a lot of gelatinous bone broth, chicken broth, beef broth, veal stock, whatever. That's very detoxifying. You would just want to avoid all the processed foods and eat a good high-fat diet. Minimize the carbs. I don't say no carbs, but minimize the carbs. And then leave it to your body. Your body will know what to do.
Puoi tradurre tu, Alessio?
Sì, allora, innanzitutto sarebbe meglio non farsele iniettare, come dice giustamente, come diciamo noi giustamente da tempo. Però se uno proprio dovrebbe ridurre il quantitativo di carboidrati e concentrarsi su cibi altamente nutrienti e detossificanti, come il ormai famoso brodo d'ossa. E quindi, a parte, come diceva, i latticini e il latte crudo, come diceva prima, ma il brodo d'ossa è fondamentale, ecco, per questo. E chiaramente, come diceva, anche i grassi, quelli buoni, ed evitare cibo spazzatura. In realtà, quindi tutto il contrario di quello che ci dicono in televisione. Yeah, it's exactly the opposite.
Oh, it's completely the opposite of what we're told. And this is my life's work, is to, crush these icons that have been created over the last 100 years, really to sell vegetable oils. It's a very profitable industry, very powerful industry. They control the medical associations. They control our government. In the government cafeterias in Washington, you can't get butter. It's all margarine. So, and there's a huge profit on these vegetable oils.
Praticamente tutto l'opposto di quello che ci dicono bisogna fare, è l'esatta cosa che vi diciamo noi da tantissimi anni, e quindi bisogna proteggersi da soli, bisogna essere informati, ma veramente informati, non leggendo i giornali, perché anche recentemente litigo con i miei amici che portano le notizie di questi giornali che sono tutte false. Bisogna andare oltre quello che sta scritto nei giornali e oltre quello che ci dice la televisione.
Go ahead.
Please.
Since we are getting another scam. So, for example, the environmental CO2 scam. So they are pushing even forward the vegetable oil agenda and avoiding meat and fat. So, what can we do in our little own world to resist to this agenda?
Well, you need to survive. We all need to survive. We need to keep our children healthy. And that's with a good diet. Fortunately, we can still buy butter and meat and raw milk if you look for it. So we, first of all, need to eat a good diet. And there's no renunciation on this diet. It's a delicious, satisfying diet. It contains a lot of things that we like to eat. Secondly, and I think Angelo would agree, we need to minimize our exposure to non-native electromagnetic frequencies in the home, where we work and where we sleep. So you ought to be able to take a meter up to your computer where you sit and work many hours a day, and it should be green, right? Because everything should be in wires. It's the same in your bedroom. No Wi-Fi, no cell phones, nothing like that in your bedroom. Even if you can shut down the electricity in your bedroom is a good idea at nights, because that's when you recover. So if your body is dealing with electromagnetic radiation while you sleep, it's going to be very difficult to recover.
Indeed, we created a new profession here in Italy. It's called light trainer. So we go into the houses to measure the EMF and suggest people protocols how to reduce the levels. And so it's our new profession.
Oh, we call it building biologists here, and we've had the building biologists come to our house. And by the way, there is an Italian doctor. She's writing in a pseudonym, but she has been writing for our journal. And she talks about cases diagnosed as COVID that happened after they put the Wi-Fi in the bedroom or they had some new exposure. And as soon as they eliminated that exposure, then the people recovered. And she says, This is not caused by a virus. It's not contagious. She totally agrees with us that it's the rollout of 5G and the exposure to Wi-Fi.
We every month, me and Alessio as an engineer teach people. We make every month a course for 20, 30 people that want to learn how to clean our houses from non-natural EMF. And it is an 8-hour course. And the day after, we make the certification. So if people want to learn how to do this kind of job, we teach them to do this. And it is 2 years that we started to make this kind of job, and it is going very, very well. And we have formed about 50 people all over Italy that can do this kind of job because yes.
It's very similar to the Industrial Revolution. The internal combustion engine caused a revolution, and people moved into the cities, and they were very crowded. And long before we had sewage treatment and clean water, we had people living together in appalling unsanitary conditions. And it wasn't vaccines or antibiotics that solved these problems. It was cleaning up the cities, cleaning up the houses, so you weren't in contact with sewage all the time. Now we have a new technology, the transistor, which has given us computers and cell phones, and we all love these things. We love the way that this technology has widened our world. But just like we had to clean up our cities after the Industrial Revolution, now we have to clean up our cities and our houses after the IT revolution, because they're filthy with non-native electromagnetic fields.
We love this kind of technology, but also we need this technology because this technology substitute our dopamine. We need some more dopamine, and this technology substitute this dopamine. So we depends from this. The risk is that we depends from this technology, and we use more and more than we need, because we don't stay outside to the sun in the nature, and so we need more dopamine and serotonin. And that's why
the broth, the glycine, which is what's in bone broth, regulates dopamine and lifts it if it needs lifting, or brings it down if it's too high. So the chicken soup, my husband and I, we eat soup every day, and it's always based on a broth.
Allora, la tecnologia è molto rischiosa nelle nostre case, proprio ci intossica e quindi ci crea questo tipo di problematica. Noi, come io e Alessio, insegniamo tutti i mesi ai nostri corsi Light Trainer come proteggersi sia dalle onde elettromagnetiche sia dalle luci artificiali, quindi tutti i tipi di onde elettromagnetiche. La signora Fallon ci suggerisce anche di bere tutti i giorni il brodo di ossa, scusate, il brodo di ossa, perché anche questo ci protegge moltissimo dalla tossicità delle onde non naturali. Soprattutto se vivete nelle grandi città, fate uso quotidiano di brodo d'ossa. Okay.
I have another issue to fix. So here we have a really fashionable trend, which is the microbiome mapping to see dysbiosis. But we've beaten this drum for a while, saying that it's just a correlation but not causation, since microbes are there to eat the toxins and debris. So in your perspective, how reliable are these kind of trends, or what should we be focused on instead?
This is so interesting, because it just shows how our attitudes towards bacteria have changed. Who would predict 30 years ago that we would be saying that bacteria are our friends and essential to life? And yet that's exactly what we have discovered. So it's all based on science. And in the traditional diet, you ate fermented foods, yogurt, kefir, you ate sauerkraut, raw sauerkraut every day, and that replenished the good gut bacteria. Again, there's a lot of pills out there for probiotics, but they're not necessary. There's as much good bacteria in a spoonful of sauerkraut as there is in a whole bottle of pills. I am a cheesemaker. We make cheese on our farm, and the cheese, raw cheese, is a fabulous probiotic food. It's richer than yogurt or sauerkraut, actually. Raw cheese is a wonderful food. So we just need to get these types of foods back in our diet. I say spend a little bit more on your food and less on your medicines. And there are very delicious and satisfying ways to acknowledge and confirm our knowledge about bacteria today.
Praticamente gli ho chiesto cosa pensa di questo trend anche del microbioma e delle analisi del microbioma, che danno più che altro una correlazione, ma non sicuramente nessi di causa-effetto, e appunto ha confermato il fatto che per nutrire, perlomeno si sono accorti che i batteri sono organismi simbiotici e non cattivi, patogeni cattivi in senso stretto. Però d'altra parte chiaramente il mercato dei probiotici è un trend che porta ben pochi benefici, e in realtà si possono si può alimentare il nostro microbioma con alimenti fermentati come i crauti fermentati, e soprattutto anche il formaggio derivante ricavato dal latte crudo, che è un'ottima fonte probiotica, e quindi non necessitiamo di tutto quello che ci viene venduto dal marketing della salute, come i probiotici.
The true traditional diet, and that's the diet from 300 years ago, all right, with the right fats, the probiotic foods, the broth, which people had every day, the raw dairy products. This is a diet that keeps us healthy, and it has everything we need to keep us healthy. So that's the first thing we do. And the second thing is clean up this mess that we've made with the EMF.
Ok, quindi la prima cosa è il buon cibo e poi evitare per quanto possibile l'inquinamento elettromagnetico, e io aggiungo anche quello atmosferico, gli interferenti endocrini e tutto il resto. How was the recent Ancestral Symposium?
I'm sorry,
it was a great success.
Our
Ancestral Symposium that
the foundation gave. Are you talking about the conference?
Your conference.
Yes, it was fabulous. It was our best. People we did not have one last year because we don't ask our people to wear masks, and so this year we had it in Texas. Nobody had masks. Hugs all around. We had 1,100 people. The lecture halls were absolutely full. So it was just a wonderful conference, and you can get all of the presentations from our website. Some are up there free and some you can purchase. And that's at wisetraditions.org.
Ok, quindi quest'anno l'anno scorso non si è svolto il loro grandissimo evento che è l'Ancestral Symposium, l'Ancestral Meeting, e quest'anno invece l'hanno fatto in Texas, dove non è necessario, come è ben noto, non è necessario l'uso di mascherine, quindi è stato un successo clamoroso. Alcune relazioni le potete vedere liberamente dal loro sito, altre invece sono a pagamento. And next year?
Well, we haven't chosen the place yet.
Next year, the Congress?
We're working on it. We'll announce it in January. Yeah, it's always at the beginning of November.
Ok, quindi l'anno prossimo può essere che si rifà agli inizi di novembre. Quindi, what is your perspective about the COVID, this pandemic era? When for you will finish this scam?
I don't, honestly, Angelo, I don't know. I mean, eventually we will achieve what I call the natural selection of the wise. The people who do the wise thing, eat the wise diet, say no to the vaccines, clean up their houses. Wise people will survive. Their children will survive. That's nature's way of changing things. But how long this will last, I just can't predict, because it just shocks me how the media is so entrenched in this paradigm, and it's disgusting to read the paper every day because of the lies that they're telling.
Yeah, they have to keep the great reset.
Yeah. Well, it is a great reset that is happening, but I don't think it's the kind of reset that they are anticipating.
Yeah.
Ho chiesto quando finirà secondo lei questa truffa del Covid, non lo sa. Ha detto l'unica cosa che possiamo fare è difenderci, non vaccinandosi, prima cosa, e seconda cosa pulendo le nostre case dalle onde elettromagnetiche e cercando di mangiare il meglio possibile, per quanto possibile, perché anche il cibo purtroppo, per quanto sia quello più sano, anche quello adesso è abbastanza tossico. Hai altre domande, Alessio? Do you have other question, Alessio?
This is an Italian 10 minutes.
Yeah. Just aside from diet and minimizing EMF, we are explaining people that it's really important to reset the circadian rhythm, light exposure, and other keeping contact with
Yes.
nature, with other like-minded people.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how important are these things?
Yes, you know, the things they're telling us to do ask us to separate ourselves from people, to isolate. And I think the most important part is to continue your life as much as you can as normal. Get outside, be in the fresh air, be with your family, be with friends, enjoy yourself, enjoy meals together, laugh a lot, you know, laugh at them. They're kind of pathetic, really. So I do think we need to make a great effort to continue leading a normal life and creating a normal life for your children.
Praticamente noi siamo fan anche dello stile di vita, quindi come ben sanno i nostri follower, prendere il sole, uscire, stare a contatto con la natura e avere contatti con le persone con cui ci troviamo bene. Ecco. Infatti ha confermato appunto che ci hanno voluto isolare con questa pandemia, e in realtà quindi dobbiamo stare insieme e cercare di mantenere la vita il più normale possibile per noi e per i nostri figli. Ecco.
We have a lot of troubles also within our families. For example, my mother is ashamed about me because I'm not vaccinated. So it's really difficult.
My siblings and their families, but I have a new family. I have a family of like-minded people, and we get together for dinner. My husband and I went to a gathering last night. Nobody wore masks. Nobody cares whether you're vaccinated. It's just a lovely gathering, and that's what we need to continue to do. Angelo,
he's freezed up.
He's frozen. He's been zapped. Shall we say goodbye or what?
Let's see if it records. Yeah. Abbiamo problemi di linea con Angelo.
Oh, okay, he's off.
The line dropped.
All right. So anyway, I hope everyone enjoys the book. I'm so grateful to Angelo for translating it. And by the way, the hardback in English has sold very well in Europe, very well. So that's where our biggest market is.
Sicuramente sarà un successo il libro e naturalmente sarà a breve disponibile anche la Nourishing Tradition, e al mito del contagio è già disponibile, e sarà disponibile a breve anche il booklet Breaking the Spell, che è l'aggiunta al mito del contagio. So we are looking forward to publish the Nourishing Tradition as well. Good. We are doing really good with the Contagion Myth, and we are translating. We are publishing also the Breaking the Spell, and so we are looking forward for all of your new works from you and Tom, and events or everything. we need to make a connection between like-minded people and work together for a better world.
Yes, and have fun while doing it.
Yeah, always have fun because.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks to you. We'll be waiting for you for the next times. And there will be many other.
I'm sorry, but we can restart or not? No, it's finished.
Well, I think we said goodbye.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sally.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Ciao, grazie. Ciao.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.